Welcome to episode 41 of Exit Philosophy with myself and co-host Mal Ramanan. We're recording on Thursday morning, so the World Series starts on Friday. We'll have a full preview of the Dodgers and Yankees World Series with our predictions, which usually don't go too well, but we will we will put some input into
Sound
that.
good at the time, but
Thought into that. But just a couple of things. One is Fernando Valenzuela passing away a couple of days ago, just on the eve, really, of the World Series. First time that the two teams have met, the Yankees and Dodgers, since 1981. And as the Expos PR guy in 1981, the coincidence of Fernando Valenzuela's passing brought back a flood of memories about that series, 5-game series. Of course, everyone remembers Rick Monday winning it in the top of the ninth inning, and the Expos unable to come back to tie it in the bottom of the ninth. And Valenzuela, which is little remembered, started that game, and he pitched 8 innings, and everyone criticizes Andre Dawson because in the first inning, he came up with the bases loaded and nobody out, and against Valenzuela, and he grounded into a double play with the only run of the game for the Expos scoring. But they say about the great pitchers that if you don't get them early, you don't get them at all. So
very true.
for Andre Dawson to ground into a double play should not be his legacy, but a lot of fans in Montreal think of that without considering the fact that one of the great pitchers and one of the great rookies of our generation started for the Dodgers.
No question. I'm trying to remember. Did they do anything in the bottom of that inning, or did they go quietly after the Monday home run? I mean, I remember the Monday home run very well. Obviously, I was on my 10 speed with a little transistor radio bopping around town. It was very, very depressing. But I can't recall what happened in the bottom of the inning.
Yeah, I do believe there was a runner on, and I just know that the last out of the game was Jerry White, who was in the game because Raines, I don't believe, was available. But Jerry White popped up, and the series was over. 5-game series. The only time really that the Expos had an opportunity to go to the World Series, and that brings us to the Dodgers and the Yankees. It was the 11th rematch of that most popular World Series ever, and this is the 12th. So it's a real coincidence that Fernando Valenzuela passed when he did, and he had stepped aside. He was broadcasting for I remember trying to promote Tim Raines in 1981 as Rookie of the Year, and of course there was a 49-day strike in the middle of the season, but you and I talked about this off air. It's kind of tough to battle the legacy of Fernando Valenzuela when his first 8 starts, starting on opening day for the Dodgers, produced an 8-0 record, a 0.50 ERA, and 5 shutouts. I mean, it's ridiculous to try and then, even as good as Tim Raines was in 1981, to try and promote that, and as a PR guy, you know that problem.
So your promotion efforts didn't carry the day? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know what on earth we could have done, especially later in the season when Raines got injured and his stolen base production slowed down. And those who watched him play knew he was a Rookie of the Year, but it's very rare that you get 2 rookies that are so fabulous appearing together and not being both able to win the awards. So.
Right. In any other year, right? Yeah. I mean, Tim Raines, I mean, what an incredible player. Obviously, one of the best I've seen at his level. I mean, he's just right. Say he just picked the wrong year to come to be a rookie. I kind of mentioned, it kind of remind me a bit of the MVP race this year. Everybody, thinking about Lindor having a chance, and it's just what an exceptional season, but you're just not winning that thing this year. It's not the year for that.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty good comparison, but And then there's the issue of whether Fernando Valenzuela should be in the Hall of Fame at Cooperstown because his impact on the Dodgers. I remember back when he broke in, and the Dodgers had, they lost World Series in 77, 78 to the Yankees. They didn't have any real Latino presence that was impactful at the time. And what a lot of people forget is that the sweetheart deal that the Dodgers got in Chavez Ravine to build Dodger Stadium from the county and the city of LA was they got that deal by moving an entire Mexican American neighborhood out. So they bought them out, moved them out, and then the only residences were on the hill leading from the parking lot. And so there was a lot of resentment in the Mexican American community and the Latino community, which, as you know, Mal, is huge in Southern California,
Well,
especially in that area of the ballpark. And so the impact that he had when he arrived, there were not a lot of Mexican Americans in the stands before Fernando. And to see the impact that he had, that's got to qualify somewhat for Hall of Fame, you would think.
you would think, but I don't think it does, unfortunately, especially when you get removed from your career as far as you are, and people don't understand that, and then they end up just looking at statistics, right? Because that's what carries the day. So I think those types of things lose their impact as time goes on, and I don't think you get recognized for it as much as he probably should at the time. But he took over the landscape of sports actually at that time. I mean, baseball was such a major player in 1981 in just the consciousness of North American sports. You know what I mean? The only other, I was thinking about that. His impact was so huge. The last time I remember something like that was probably Dwight Gooden. I mean, obviously different circumstance, but just the way you dominated the sport and just captivated people's attention where it was must see TV or find out what happened. How did they pitch that day? What did they do? What spectacular feats did they display on that start? You had to make sure you knew when Fernando was pitching or Gooden was pitching. And I'm not sure since then that I can think of anything on that level. I don't know. Can you?
Yeah, no, it brings us to the preview of this World Series because to me, every other Dodger Yankee World Series has been relatable to the rotations, to the matchups. Like in 1963, when the first time the Dodgers faced the Yankees after moving to LA, it was the first World Series appearances for Sandy Koufax, and Don Drysdale was there, and Johnny Padres was a great third starter. And that's all you needed when guys were going every 4 days.
Right.
And like, the matchups. So you would look at the matchups, and that was, by the way, the 63 series was the first series I was able to watch on TV after coming to Canada from Jamaica because we didn't have any TVs down there. But I had listened to the Yankees World Series of the late 50s on radio. So in my mind, Mickey Mantle was like a giant,
Yeah.
because he was such a good player. And that's why he became my favorite player because I had heard him on shortwave for so many years in the World Series. But yeah, that 63 series was all about Dodgers pitching. And like even going back to 81, it was the pitching matchups that you anticipated and you look forward to. And I think, I don't know about you, but I think it started to change in 2010, 12, and 14 when the Giants won with such tremendous, they had good starting pitchers, but they won with the depth and the talent in their bullpen. And you think of the Royals against the Blue Jays in 2015, and it was the bullpen. And since then, it's all about can your bullpen make it through 7 games being on fumes by the time it ends? I mean, do you see a solution? Do you see the same problem and a solution for that?
Yeah, it's whether you see it as a problem. I do. Again, I think we discussed it. I don't think it's as enjoyable an experience watching seven nondescript bullpen arms, carry the day. But that's how you get it done in today's game. And again, you say it's all about the Dodgers pitching. Well, it is about the Dodgers pitching again, except it's about all the bullpen arms. Um, do I see a solution? Yeah, I do. I just don't think we'll ever get there. And I think we could talk about that. That's kind of where the game has moved into, and I think it's mainly because of the way it's structured and the rules of the game that it's the intelligent way to attack it. You're not going to leave a starter out there to go 7, 8 innings when you've got guys throwing a hundy, from both sides, and you can deploy them, and then you get days off in between. That's when you're talking about handicapping the series, I think the Dodgers got a real advantage. They got to rest. I don't understand all this rest before they started up tomorrow. And I think that's really beneficial for that Dodgers bullpen because that's the whole premise. They're going to carry the day. That's their plan. Their
When
plan is bullpen days.
Yeah. When they get to the LCS, at least they go back to the traditional 2 games, 1 off day, 3 games, 1 off
Yeah.
day, and then the final 2 games if necessary. They at least do that.
Yeah.
But the first couple of rounds is just a mishmash of off days and television exclusives and bullpens.
Well, and all this rest before the World Series starts. I mean, I get it. They're waiting for the weekend, but I mean, it just changes. It kind of changes the actual, the way the game's going to be played. And
How about this? How about this observation that I was looking at the schedule because I was finishing up my World Series preview, which will be out later today on griffstopitch.com. There's my plug. but but
sign up, everybody.
but the World Series has been set up so that 2 Sundays in a row they are not playing. Like baseball used to not care about going up against the NFL. And now they've scheduled it so the off day is on Sunday and then Sunday again.
As
Which
they
is
should.
which
As they should,
right.
because
But
that's where you are. I know it's again, they've lost their place next to the NFL. You're right. It's unfortunate, but it kind of makes a lot of sense. If you're
yeah,
looking for max eyeballs. Now, what's the long-term vision to get that back? That's where they're losing. That's where the league loses. But as you stand today, I'd avoid Sundays at all costs myself.
yeah. I would say that in this World Series, just to finish up the preview or our opinions on it, that if you were just looking at the traditional starting pitcher matchups, that the Yankees, I mean, they got 4 guys ready to go, plus Nestor Cortez, who they're saying is going to be made activated so that he can face the left-handed hitters, including Shohei. Um, but they have 4 starters ready to go. And, beyond even Yamamoto, uh, the they got Walker Bueller. Both of those guys struggled down the stretch, and then they don't even have a fourth starter. They're going bullpen, and they'll probably have to go bullpen in Game 6 again. Which
And
is,
I think they have an advantage. That's why I like the Dodgers here. I just think the starting rotation, while the Yankees is obviously better, I don't think it's going to carry the day. I mean, it's going to come down to what happens in the Yankee bullpen. Um, and I think the Dodgers are just have a better offense. This is a better baseball team. Just the way it's constructed in 2024. I think that's they're just in a much better spot. I mean, anything can happen. They're two great
yeah.
teams.
Well, that's
Aaron
it.
Judge, if Giancarlo Stanton, I don't know where this is coming from. I mean, if that continues, I mean, who knows? But
There's the 21st century Mr. October right now. I mean, this is a guy who just steps up. Like I think you or I could get him out early in the regular season,
no question.
and then now he just like, and I can't take my eyes off his biceps. I hate to say it when he swings the bat and they show it in super slow motion, and I'm going, damn.
Impressive.
But yeah, so you're picking the Dodgers.
I am. Yeah.
I after wrapping up my preview, which will go out this afternoon on griffstopitch.com. Did I mention that?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'm also picking the Dodgers in 6 or 7. You know, the thing about the starting pitching is you got games 1 and 2 and games 6 and 7 at Dodger Stadium at 5 o'clock, and we've all been out there at twilight postseason. It looks like two Cy Youngs out there, you know,
Right.
Cy Young and Walter Johnson maybe, and because of the shadows, because of the twilight, and that could be an advantage for the team that's starting pitching isn't so good, and that would be the Dodgers to me. You know, if they can squeeze uh 3, 4, say 4 or 5 innings out of their starters, then get to their loaded bullpen, I think that could be an advantage. And you know, unless it's a really cloudy day.
I'll make a quick bold prediction. I'll take the Dodgers in 5. I think it's
Wow.
going to be. I
Not
think
gonna
it's going
go
to be.
not gonna go back. They're gonna be celebrating on the
That,
field.
that's right. That's right.
Oh,
So
the Yankees hate that. I remember in '03 when the Marlins won in New York, and that ass of a owner had his all the families of the owners in front office down there, and they were tearing up strips of Yankee Stadium. And I'm writing in the press box going, holy shit, this is not going to go over well.
yeah, talk about not
Jeffrey
acting like you've
Loria
been there
and yeah,
before.
oh God, yeah.
Totally unfamiliar with that experience. They were.
So this will, I'm sure that will give extra incentive for the Yankees, even if they're trailing in the series, to get it back to LA so they don't have to have the grounds crew redo the entire field. You know.
That's right. That's right. We don't want that.
Let's see now. The Blue Jays. They didn't wait until the end of the World Series to start rebuilding, reloading. Reloading is the word. They hired a 34-year-old hitting coach, David Popkins, 34 years old, 3 years with the Twins. And in August and September, the only team as bad as the Blue Jays in terms of hitting and clutch hitting was the Twins. So they go
You,
out and hire this guy. What do you think of that?
I, you can't have internal improvement without the right resources, and you gotta come out of the gates big, I guess. I don't know. I
David
mean,
Hopkins.
what I was the first thing I thought it was really strange. Obviously, I don't know if there's any connection to this guy from. I mean, maybe there is, but through the management team. Um, I was really curious why Matt Haig wouldn't get a shot at that role, and obviously, I'm not being there at the moment. There could be valid reasons, but I kind of felt like Matt Haig was kind of really important with Laddie's resurgence this year. I just got the impression that he really was working with Vladdy. Now, perhaps I'm wrong, but that's kind of the way I saw and some of the things I heard. So, I assume Matt will still be back in that role because they might add a fourth hitting coach at some point. Who knows? So there's lots of room for more hitting theories. But I mean, it's a hitting coach, right? Um, you know, it's a hitting coach.
Well, this guy, David Popkins, and we'll get to know him once spring training and the season starts. But it seems to me that this guy must be a really deep analytics guy to
Correct.
get that job.
And at
And
34.
and I agree with you on Matt Haig. I thought Matt Haig should have got the job if they're going to not bring Guillermo back, which seemed to be like a 8-inch gimme putt. You know, like that you're not going to bring him back. But Matt Haig, what this tells me is that there is not as much of an anticipation that the Buffalo boys are going to be the heart and soul of the 2025 lineup, because Matt Haig worked with all those guys. And if you don't even give him the job, and what does this tell anyone, any minor league coach in your organization? I
Agreed.
mean, that is a bad message to send.
I agree totally, especially for those roles. Like I just said, it's a hitting coach. I'm not to demean the position. I do think they're important, but on the grand scheme of things, they're not in the box, as they say. So I do think when you're building a culture within an organization, it's important to reward guys that have put the work in, put the effort in, and actually shown some success. I mean, if you if you look at the evidence, I mean, the Buffalo boys certainly did them proud, right?
Yep.
And I think, there's reasons. So I mean, right. I mean, I think it's a fair question to ask. There's no question about it. I think, I think the thing I found funny as soon as I read the release was that quote by John Schneider. And I think you've probably referred to this. Um, it's the last words that would come out of John Schneider's mouth as a quote
Yeah.
of those natures. I mean, if that isn't from the front office,
Well, as a PR guy, as a
I don't
former
know,
guy
I
yourself,
don't know
right?
what is.
For anyone to believe that John Schneider was that familiar with the hitting coach of the Minnesota Twins is just stretches the credibility of the moment. Now we look at the second move that the Jays made. They brought in Justin Lear, which is a less of a move that the public, that the fan base, that Blue Jays Nation will care about. The majority. He's the minor league pitching director. That's his title. And like you don't get finished products to the major leagues, but they can be prepared better to arrive. And I mean, you were there so many years. Um, was that a problem that none of these prospects that the Jays tout comes and is immediately successful, like a lot of other organizations bring in guys and like they're lights out? Can something be done, or is something need to be done in terms of maybe stretching guys out before they come up, or I don't know what can
Well,
be done.
It's funny. I think, again, as you said, that's the training ground to teach to these guys, how to pitch at the major league level. That's the whole point. The funny thing back in the day, there was such concern for not overusing arms, trying to protect arms. Back in the day, we had guys going back to back starters. Like you would go the Sanchez, was it Syndergaard, Nicolino, and Desclafani. Those guys would all back each other up and pitch like 2 innings. Like they never got stretched out. And that was a conscious decision to protect the arms over perhaps them learning how to get through hitters 2 and 3 times in a game and stretching out their arms. So, I would think that cost me, that could be a concern, and I think that's changed. I think in hindsight, that probably wasn't the best way to go about things, but that was definitely the way, the philosophy in the minor leagues at the time. And, who's to say? But I think that does impact guys when they come up here. And you got to get big leagues hitters out a couple times, 2 and 3 times as a starter, and you've never done it. There's the old saying, do they learn how to win games? Do you learn how to pitch through adversity? How to save some stuff for the guy 3 times, even
Yeah.
unfortunately back then 2 times you never saw a guy. So you didn't. So the philosophy's changed.
But if
As
if they're taught that as a starting pitcher, wins are not important, and they are taught that, and there's a whole generation of fans who even believe that, like the standings are not built on spin rate or anything like that. The standings are built on wins. You get to the postseason because of wins.
I'm not even referring to wins as a pitcher. Like we can debate that, and I think we realize they're not as important as we thought when we were younger. But wins as a team, how to
Well,
win a
that's
ball
it.
game,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
how to win a ball game, how to grind through something, how to stretch your arm out. I think that was kind of the philosophy because it was all about guys not getting hurt, guys not getting hurt.
Yeah.
We wanted to get to, and the irony is they all got hurt.
Well,
Everybody gets hurt, you
the
know?
other thing about team winning and being in the minor leagues is there's a difference in philosophy with some organizations that believe that you want your AAA and AA teams to compete every year and to try and win the league that they're in. And then there's other organizations that say we're just going to use this as a holding ground. Like we send guys down, we bring guys up. You hold on to our guys, you use them the way we tell you to use them, not necessarily in moments in time where you can win a game, but just where we tell you to use them, like 40 pitches. He's going to start the game. our rehab hitter is going to bat lead off for 3 at-bats and then he's out. And I've heard people within the Blue Jays organization suggest that they need to focus more on winning in the minor leagues. To your point, that where you learn to win, where you learn what it feels like, what it's like. And I don't think there's enough of that. And if there was a choice between individual development, which is sort of, like unproven science, or winning, I would choose winning at the triple and double A levels.
I think there's a balance. Look, the only thing that matters, well, I shouldn't say that. The most important thing that matters is the major league team. That's why you have all the minor league teams. It's all about the major league team and what happens there. But like you say, what's the value in winning at the minor league level for the player's development? There's also other factors that come into it too. I can remember when the team moved to Buffalo, and it was important for that organization that they actually win. And I understand somebody owns that team, somebody invests in that team, and we used to try and go sign guys, veteran players, hitters that would help them win games because they wanted to win. So you're balancing that aspect, yet still obviously your prospects need to be running through there. And hopefully they're developing and contributing to the winning. But there are some organizations, you're right, that just don't care. It's all about just you do what I say when I say, because it's about the development. But I think there is a balance there. And I think if you ignore the winning part, you're ignoring part of that development. Like anything, it's
But
once you learn how to get through a pennant race, whether that's in, you're a kid, you those experiences you had, they matter. They build a little character, and I think that's important in development too.
it used to be that minor league owners, and you brought up the issue of minor league ownership. It used to be that minor league owners had some influence because it was their business and they wanted to win and draw people to the stadium. And if you had a popular location like Buffalo or like Indianapolis or somewhere that was much sought after by other organizations, then you could force a little bit the parent organization to bring in players to help you win. But I don't see that as much anymore. I mean, I know the
Well,
Buffalo situation has been consistent, but they came from Las Vegas to Buffalo. And part of that was that would promise that we'll put competitive teams on the
what
field every year.
we did that in Vancouver. I mean, for a long time there, we made sure all the top prospects went through there because hey, Vancouver's a big city, a big market, and it was a big deal. And I know we all sold the Canadian stuff about your first taste of what it's like to play in Canada, but that was a legit organization that was investing,
Yeah.
and like the top guys
Yeah.
had to go through
And I,
Vancouver.
I remember like Alex Anthopoulos telling me when I asked him about Vancouver and how while other organizations were moving their teams, their franchise, their minor league teams out of Canada, he was adding Vancouver, and he thought it was very important. And he made me laugh, and I used the quote, but he said, "We want our top prospects to get used to the feel of loonies and toonies in their pocket," which I thought was brilliant.
It is brilliant. Well, he's a smart man, but yeah, that there's a reason they all went out there, and that's part of it. They wanted to win for the ownership group as well. It was important.
And we talk about Fernando Valenzuela. We were talking about him before, and when we were talking about pitcher development and making sure that players don't get hurt before they reach their prime, that you get the most out of them in the 6 years that you have them before free agency. Just in the World Series, in the World Series in 1981, Fernando pitched on his third day and threw a complete game on 143 pitches.
Sacrilege.
That was his
Wow.
rookie year, and
In his rookie year.
it didn't end his career.
And he was celebrated, obviously, as he
Yeah,
should have
yeah.
been.
But that's another thing about the Arizona Fall League as compared to the Caribbean Winter Leagues. Like when you went to the Caribbean Winter Leagues as a pitcher, you became a man because there was
You were
gambling, there
there to
was
win.
drinking. You had to duck out of the way of a Crown Royal bottle. There was all sorts of reasons for you to accelerate your maturity level. While in the Arizona Fall League, you got your buddies and you all
You
go
get
for
baby.
you all go for to the pink pony or whatever it is for dinner, and everybody's on a different team, but you're all in the same city.
Yeah, more Chipotle.
Yeah, right. But again, somehow you and I always end up sounding like get off my lawn guys, you know?
Well, but I think there's real value. Like you said, if you're gonna, I mean, I get it. You're amongst your peers. I mean, the Arizona Fall League, the top prospects go there, but hey, go play against men who are trying to win championships, and you'll develop real quick. There's a lot of ways to develop. It's not just your spin rate. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
maturing for
Um,
sure.
and bringing Fernando up again in the 81 series, I forgot, or I now remember that I wanted to talk about a few items that happened in 1981 when I was the PR guy in Montreal and had been downstairs preparing the interview room for the celebratory
Expos
game
victory.
5 victory. And then I looked
Yes.
at the TV at the monitor and Rick Monday homers. And then I go back upstairs for the bottom of the ninth, and Jerry White pops up to end the game. And it was a miserable evening.
Oh, I can't.
However, there were a couple of things that salvaged it. One of them was there's this guy, his name was Israel Shapiro. He was a homeless guy from the streets of New York, from the streets of Brooklyn. He was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. He was a Duke Snider fan, and Duke Snider was the radio TV broadcaster for the Expos at the time. So Israel Shapiro followed us around. He went to spring training. His sister wanted him out of town because his head was covered in billy
Was he a
club
wealthy
marks
homeless
from the
man?
police. What?
Was he a wealthy homeless man?
No, he was a homeless man. His sister got him a monthly bus pass from Greyhound and said, "Here you go, Israel. Please go wherever you want."
Just
And so,
not here.
yeah, just not here. But anyway, he shows up at the press box as we've finished all the post game, and he comes up. He's a homeless guy. He dresses like a homeless guy. He is a homeless guy. In fact, he said to me one time, "How come writers don't like fruit?" Because he would collect up all the free boxed lunches, and he would look for sandwiches, and he would look for food because that was his foraging. That was his hunter
The
mentality.
homeless guy was sick of the fruit.
Yeah, he said
That's
they
not,
writers
they
don't
meet
eat
his standards.
So he shows up at the press box door. I'm headed down for the party. We thought would be a celebration party. It turned into a wake. But as I'm leaving the press box, Israel is standing there and he goes, "Where's Peter Durso?" Peter Durso was a traveling secretary, and Israel owed him $20, and he had a $20 bill ready to pay Peter back, which I thought was admirable for a homeless guy.
That's very honorable.
Yeah. So,
You could have bought a sandwich with that.
oh, no doubt. He's anyway, he's there, and I look at him, and I'm headed for this party, and he's there, and I go, "Israel, you got no socks on." And if you remember seeing that game, it was like 30 degrees at game time, or -1 Celsius. And he said, "No, I'm okay." And so I took my shoes off, I took my socks off. I said, "Israel, you got to put these socks on," because he had a hole in his one sneaker.
Of
And
course.
I'm sure he had frostbite, but that was balanced against the knocks on his head from police batons. Um, so, so I gave him my
You might have a few of those yourself, I think.
I gave him my socks, put my shoes back on, turned around, and Debbie, soon to be my wife, was behind me watching the whole scene. And now, 42 years later, here we are married with 4 wonderful children. And I thank Israel Shapiro. I didn't invite him to the wedding, but such is life.
So you're saying the whole thing was a setup.
No, I took care of Israel.
Well done, Israel. What did it cost you to have him do that?
His green book and his red book every year. He had a shopping bag with a baseball encyclopedia, a red book, green book, and a pair of pants.
So how did he get this access? Did you
No,
were you giving him press passes?
I gave him a ticket in in West Palm Beach once, and he went and harassed Tommy Lasorda.
Also a good move.
But if you were a security guy in Montreal, would you try and stop this homeless, dangerous, somewhat strange looking guy, or would you just let him go
Probably.
in?
I
Oh,
guess the places you can go when you just go, right?
yeah.
Especially back in 1981 or whatever it is.
He had
Yeah.
what he had what we call chutzpah.
Chutzpah. That's right. That's
Uh,
a tremendous story.
but that's all part of my 81 experience. Oh, also, you know how these days in postseason, and a lot of our listeners wouldn't have been at a postseason, but in the interview room, there's a TV camera and
Yep.
microphones, and you can sit in the press box wherever you are and hear and see the interviews being taken, because usually you're on deadline night games. Well, the first place that ever put video in was Montreal.
Really?
Yes, because before that it had just been
You were
audio.
ahead of your time.
Oh yeah. And
Wow.
ever since that time, that was the beginning of video. And something killed the audio star.
That's right. They should make a song about that.
Yeah. But anyway, that was I've run out of my 1981 stories. So
That must have been cutting edge then, though, to
it
have the
was.
first, like that must have been a big deal
Yeah,
amongst
we
the
weren't
great
asked to
unwashed.
do it. We weren't asked to do it, but we had noticed over time that you can't really see the nuance in an answer. Some people are sort of being lighthearted or tongue in cheek, and you can't see that on just the audio feed. So we had some cooperative in-house camera people, and we tried it, and it worked. And MLB was so in awe of it; they've used it ever since.
Wow, that's a great move. There's no
Yeah.
question about it. Yeah.
The Washington
Now
National.
they're all trying to take it out. How do we restrict access now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But let's see what else we got going on here. The did you watch the LeBron and Bronny session in
Well,
LA?
well, I saw that it was over before it started. Was it 3.5 minutes?
Oh my God. It
Of course,
was,
I saw them check into the game because it's everywhere. You can't
yeah,
you can't unsee it,
yeah.
obviously. But it didn't last long, that's for sure.
No, it was like, who is it? And just to set it up, Bronny James, LeBron's oldest son, was drafted in the second round by the Lakers
Yep,
and
55th.
added to the roster, even though he had scored 1.5 points in his freshman year at USC. And the year before was coming off a heart issue that knocked
Right.
him out for the year. So I think he was redshirt the year before at USC, but his numbers didn't warrant being drafted at all. There's only 2 rounds in the NBA draft, but the Lakers drafted him. They got LeBron back for another couple of years, which I think was the bottom line and the point of the entire exercise. And then here they come. They go through an exhibition schedule where Bronny James was terrible,
Right.
like he was minus 60 on his plus minus when he was on the floor. And I think he was even -9 in
That
this
bad.
opening day game. But like, it's great that you get to play with your son. But there's 13 other players on the bench going, what the hell is going on? That's my impression. I don't know what you thought of it.
Well, yeah, it's obviously absurd from a basketball, quality point of view, but well, let's face it, it's a PR stunt, and sometimes those things are important. Sometimes, look, we're talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. You can't turn on your TV right now and have people not talk about it. So sometimes those things are more important than, the guy who actually probably deserves to play, because at the end of the day, Griff, the guy who deserves to play, he's gonna play. Bronny ain't gonna see the floor.
Yeah,
Like it's just so
they were
so
up,
I
they were up
actually
21 points when he came in. So that
right,
was the
right.
right time to do it.
Right. So, I mean, I get it. I get it. And I get why. And like you say, the bottom line is they got LeBron back for a couple more years. And I totally understand. And it brings attention to it. And I'm all for it, especially as a PR guy. There's nothing wrong with it. The guy's not going to start. He's not going to play. That's just not going to happen. I mean, he's it's,
I,
you got
yeah,
what you got out of it. And let's
yeah.
see, let the kid develop. And I mean, who
And you
knows
got
how?
to keep LeBron fresh and enthusiastic for the next couple of years because he got to play with his son, right?
And that's important. like
Yeah.
you said, what other? I mean, there's not too many father sons that have played. Has is there? I mean,
We were talking about Gordie Howe and Mark and Marty.
that's
They played
that's
with
probably the most impressive one, to
the
be honest with
Houston
you.
Aeros, maybe. Was it the Houston
Yeah,
Aeros?
Houston
Yeah.
Aeros. Yeah, and they all played in the same.
There was Tim Raines and Tim
As
Raines Jr.
you would know well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was telling the story. I remember on the field at Olympic Stadium behind home plate trying to do pregame interviews. And Tim Raines Jr. would be there with a bat. He'd be flipping balls in the air and whacking them into the net behind home plate. Then he'd turn around and do it from the other side. And I had to throw him off the field. I'm going like, Little Rock, get off the field. This is not your time. Come out a little earlier during BP. And he would scowl at me, and I would say, "This kid's never going to make it." And
This is Rich Griffin's time right now.
that's why I'm not a scout.
That's why you're not a scout. I mean, make it is kind of debatable too, but
Right,
hey,
right.
he played. He earned
Yeah.
his way there. So, uh,
But I think, and then
Griffey.
I thought it was really cool if they were going to do it, that Ken Griffey Sr.
Yeah.
and Ken Griffey Jr. were actually at the ball game, at the basketball game in the seats. And I don't think either one of them lives in LA. They flew out specifically for that, which let you know, even though Bronny didn't start that game, that he was going to be in, because
Yeah, no, no.
kind of
Perhaps
agree with
they were
you.
given a heads up. You know what I mean? But again, like I said, I have no problem with it. I have no problem with it. I don't think I think it's a smart move, and I think it gets people talking about the game. And when push comes to shove, you won't be on the court,
Yeah.
so it's not going
I
to
think
harm the
he'll
game.
probably, if it hasn't happened already, he'll be sent down to the, what do they call the
The G
team?
League, the
Yeah,
G
yeah,
League.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So
And I mean, that's probably was the plan to begin with. There's no use delaying and making him earn his way to the big club and delaying the inevitable of father son playing together. Because who knows, maybe LeBron might have got hurt in the meantime, right?
and he never earns his way there.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Well,
You
there's
don't
that.
want to go to the G League and shit the bed, as they say, and then it's really embarrassing when you bring him up. So smart move right out of the gate.
Yeah. I'm just looking at notes here, and like,
Well, you know what? One thing you mentioned before is I've seen some national media talking about Juan Soto and his free agency, and the Blue Jays keep getting mentioned, right? And
yeah,
then the one question I had for you is, how is that even remotely a possibility? Like where would the money come from? Like the only possibility the Jays have being a player in that Juan Soto market is if they got another exception on the salary like they did with Otani. And I just can't see how that's possible. Do you? Like just because the Jays were in on Otani, I think they just get mentioned on everybody at this stage and they have a high payroll.
yeah. Well, when we were caught up in the middle of the Otani hunt, and the plane was taking off
Yeah.
from John Wayne Airport or wherever it was. I mean, the fact was that it was never a baseball signing. It was a
Right.
Rogers business signing.
Correct.
And like they were going to make their money back. You've seen how much money and how much new business the Dodgers have made, and they're not even in the broadcast, the wireless
Yeah.
streaming business.
Business.
But it was never about should we bring Otani in and make this Blue Jays team the best it can be. It was
Of course
never
not.
about that.
Of
It was
course not.
about how can we dominate the Japanese market, and clearly the ratings on this World Series are going to be stupendous, and it's paying for itself already. But compare that to the quest to sign Juan Soto. Where would Soto bring anything other than being able to help win on the field? Where would you make up the $600 million in commitment to Juan Soto that they were so willing to do with Otani? Yeah, you
The
can't.
answer is you can't.
No,
It's the
there's
only
no
incremental
demand on the
revenue
streaming
is going
market. Yeah,
it's going to be just on winning. And
right.
and you can do that without spending $600 million. Well, you maybe can't, but that certainly won't justify an expense of that nature. And that's why I say I don't understand why anyone would think they're going to be on a Juan Soto. as you know, when it comes to major corporations, the budget is set, and the budget is set for the season. There are no exceptions to that. Whether they want to tell you come the trade deadline that you do not, you have your budget and you manage it. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. It doesn't change. It's not going to change. It was approved a long time ago. So we know what their salary is going to be within reason. We already, and Mark's already said, it's going to be something similar
Yeah.
to what it's been. That is not room for Juan Soto. And I just don't see where that is even an option. They're gonna have to, get after this team and improve it in a different manner. So I just that's my opinion. I don't see it
Yeah.
for 2 seconds.
To to further that, you're going to see fans are going to see the Blue Jays name being brought up as the negotiations for Juan Soto continue because
Of course.
the agent knows that they were in on the Otani. So there's no harm in saying that the Blue Jays are involved.
And when you're reading your national media person, just have some critical thinking of why that name gets mentioned. It's not because they have any inside information that it is. There's oftentimes a lot of reason on why stuff gets sent out via national media through agents and et cetera, et cetera. You're trying to build a market for a guy, right? I
Yep.
mean, and not that people don't know it, but you want the idea that there's going to be 6 teams in on Soto, so you can maximize that Yankee
Yeah.
contract.
So or the Mets. Yeah.
Or the Mets, of course,
So
of course.
so now you look at Juan Soto and you look at Otani. Otani was coming to a team that was borderline deep into October because they had lost on that ridiculous decision in Minneapolis. And it wasn't the hitting coach that won that game, who is now a member of the Blue Jays.
It was not the hitting coach.
But like Otani had that as a bone to look at and to ponder. But Otani's coming to a team that won 74 and is negotiating with him. So realistically, and we've gone over that it's not realistic anyway, that it's just using the Blue Jays' interest in previous free agents to bump where this guy is going to land. But just thinking of it from Otani's viewpoint, it makes no sense that he would be even interested in going
Otani or
on the Blue Jays. Otani. No,
Otani?
Soto.
Soto. That's what I
Soto.
thought you meant. Soto.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Soto, because uh, you know, it just doesn't make any sense. So
Well, there's only
I would
one
suggest,
only one reason he would be interested, like a lot of free agents, is that they would overpay more than anybody else, and
yeah,
that's not on
but
the table.
we've already gone over
Yeah,
that
yeah. So
they're not
outside of
ready to
that,
do that. Yeah.
I don't see any particular reason why that would be, a realistic option. So I just I keep seeing that out there, and people do comment. People think they're going to be in on him, and I just don't see the path for that.
So I want you to lead this portion of the discussion. Then we'll get into maybe NFL. Um, not to criticize the moves that the Jays made, but why are they in a position they're in? And what mistakes led them to where the Blue Jays are right now, trying for a 5 month rebuild, something that is not impossible, but almost impossible. They have the advantage of a strong starting rotation, but beyond that, what's led them to this dilemma that they find themselves in?
Well, and those are the questions I think as a fan, those are the ones I want answered. We can all debate, like you said, we can debate this move, that move. Like I said, some work, some don't. Why are they in a position where they keep having to move on from their players? And I think, when you're talking about can they rebuild in 5 months, I'd say the answer is no, because I think the reason they're in this position is because of the way the organization's been run. When you're looking at just look at all how come they're all leaving? That's what I want to know. How come you can't sign Teoscar? How come you didn't sign Lourdes? Now, you can move on from whoever you want if you feel it's the right move. But when it's every single one of the players, like Danny Jansen's not here, Marcus Simeon's not here. Say what you want about Chapman. I mean, I'm not the biggest Chapman guy, but he's certainly better than what you've been rolling out there. It's a continuous theme as to having to move on to from guys because their contract's going to run out. As I said, this is not hockey. And like the biggest question for me still is why are we in a position where our two homegrown stars are not signed and we're talking about we have to make a decision. Oh, there's no decision. The decision's been made, I believe, years ago. It's like when you have an exclusive audience to your own players, you should be retaining some of them, particularly the ones you want. You shouldn't be trading your four-hole hitter for 50 relief innings. That's just, you'd never see the Yankees doing that. So those are just the, ask yourself, so why are they in this position of doing it? And I think that's the critique of the management team. Why are they in this position? So let's go find out. We could go talk to some people, but that's the fair criticism. Those are the answers I'd like.
Mal, is it possible, in your opinion, that the Blue Jays are very interested, especially after the season that Vlad had, are very interested in signing him as quickly as possible? Because we all agree that if he was under contract for the next 10 years, that it would be easier to attract other free agents to make this 5-month rebuild possible. Do you believe that it's Vlad's side that is slow playing to see what Soto the Soto market is?
100%. And I think when, as you know, Rich, when you get this close to your free agency, you'd be a fool not to get there. I mean, that's the entire reason why I say these guys should have been signed 3 and 4 years ago with the structure of control in Major League Baseball. You know how it works. You buy out a little bit in the free agent years, you give them a little more up front. They have life-changing money, and they are a Blue Jay for a long period of time, and then they still get that big contract. But you maximize, they're your player. So at this stage, you're darn right. I think the Jays are very eager to sign Vladdy. The only way to do it now is to probably overpay him because he's got to see what Soto makes and see what's out there for Vladdy. There's little
Yeah.
incentive for him to sign now.
Well,
He's gone
the,
all this way.
the problem for the Jays was that after 23, they lost faith in him. And then after 24, they went, oh my God, we should have him under contract. But they didn't believe in the player until he showed that he was the guy that they hoped he would be. And now
I
he's got 1 year left. And if it was Scott Boras that was his agent, there's no way they would sign him. But I think the fact that he has played his entire career with the Blue Jays, they can afford to pay him a little more because they're paying him for what he's done. I think that they can add a couple of years that nobody else would add at the back end so that the average annual value, the AAV, remains workable. I think that's the only way they can do it.
It's the only way they have to do it. And again, you have to do that. I don't think they lost faith in Vladdy. I think obviously they may have lost faith in them at that time, but don't tell me they didn't try to sign him before and they couldn't. They couldn't. And those are the questions is why couldn't you sign your guy? They certainly didn't lose faith in him during the COVID years when he was perhaps the best player in the game.
Yeah, but
Those,
they weren't
that's
even
when you sign
thinking
your
that
guy.
they weren't
Like
even
nowadays,
thinking that
Griff,
they would be among the highest payroll teams at that time in 2019, 2021. They didn't believe that they would be where they are. And that's where I give Mark Shapiro some credit is that he talked Rogers ownership into bumping them in the
100%.
top 10. But
100%.
the way they've used that top 10 is ridiculous. They're a bottom 10 performance team and a top 10 payroll team.
Well, and now the fact that you haven't signed your young stars to some team favorable deal, now if you do sign Vladdy, he's eaten up so much of your budget. Like you shouldn't have to overpay your guy at this point in his career. Maybe when he becomes a free agent on that second deal, of course, everybody gets to that point where they
Yeah, but
achieve
if
it.
they
You
go,
need to sign them early and give them that life-changing
yeah,
money, and you
if
got to take a little risk.
they go
And
10 or 12 years, and the last two being sort of years that you expect that he won't be contributing as much or earning that money, I think that he'll be 35. I don't think he'll have another contract after this one. I think this is it. You give him the big one and you hang on to him. You trade him if you have to, but I wouldn't give him even any opt-outs because that's a mugs game when you do that.
Well, but it's also a negotiating tool, right? So, I mean, and obviously that's a Boris thing too. So, I mean, yeah, all I'm telling you is they don't have a hell of a lot of leverage like they should have.
Yeah.
When you develop a homegrown guy, you're supposed to have some leverage. Guys are signing players now before they even play. That's we
Yeah.
we're doing that sort of thing now and you're taking more risk.
Yeah.
But
But
if the
like
guy hits,
like
woof, you
the
got to
the the Churi money in Milwaukee before he even set foot on a major league field, that's reasonable money. That's not we're not talking Vlad money or Soto money.
No, that's the point though.
Yeah, yeah,
That's why you do it. And the player gets life-changing money. So you just remove some of the risks of your early part of your career. It's happening earlier and earlier, and that's the mistake. And the same thing with Bo. I mean, sorry, nobody ever soured on Bo except maybe till this year. Well, I
yeah,
mean, that had to be signed. You had to get your guys under control. Those are the questions I want answered. Why do we keep having to move on from our players? What's causing that? What's causing every time, we have to move on from our players, and what's causing us not to sign our star players? And we went from one of the top offenses in baseball to one of the bottom offenses in baseball. And here we are today. Here we are today, whether you want to argue one side or the other, it's not in a good spot. They are not in a good spot. So asking these guys to fix it, I think, is beyond a tall order. I just
yeah.
don't think there's any evidence that they're going to be able to do it.
And combine that question of why can't you hang on to your own players? Combine that with the fact that only one draft choice in the last 5 drafts has even made it to the major leagues. And there's the inventory that most teams use to trade and get players for a rebuild in 5 months. Like you look at the farm system and you can't put together a package of 5 guys to bring somebody in who is going to be an impact player in 2025. You can't do it.
You can't do it. I mean, all their prospects appear to be in the low minors at this point too, right? And that's still a crapshoot
Yeah.
as they move through the system. So, but I mean,
Or
I think
or
that's
a rehab
probably the
from Tommy John or whatever, like
well,
maybe.
that too.
Yeah.
I mean, the one guy they got Tatum in there. It's. I mean, that's what happens, right?
All right.
Unfortunately.
Well, let's get into NFL and wrap this up. This is week 8 coming up. Before we get
Sure,
into,
you want to talk about this?
I want to talk about your Buffalo Bills and like
Okay.
how Josh Allen has gone 7 games and not thrown an interception when this guy was uh, like a gunslinger, where
Oh,
you expected him to throw balls that bounced off a receiver when he wasn't looking into an opponent and whatever. But this guy has turned it around, and now he's got Amari Cooper. And what do you see from the Bills moving forward? Since you're the Bills
well,
guy,
I am the Bills guy. That's right. I think you've got to be encouraged. Like I said, they're clearly taking a step back this year, and they saw an opportunity, which is why they went and got Cooper for almost no cost, which was great. While, the Jets are paying heavily for Devonta Adams, and, I'm not sure what the Chiefs paid for Hopkins. I'm sure it wasn't much either. But when the division starts to fall the way it is, and your two main competitors are shitting the bed for various reasons, I think, the path to the playoffs just became a whole lot easier. So I think they got rewarded for for that. And Josh is playing great. There's no question about it. I think you go back to see him slinging the ball a little more as they move forward, and he won't stay interceptionless, but I think they're in a good spot. Are they an elite team? I don't believe so. I don't believe so, and I think they know that. But they're good enough to get to the playoffs, and then injuries, what have you. Who knows at that point? Who knows? But this was kind of the let's see what happens here because they're reloading for the next 3 years. There's no question, and I think they're in a great spot to be a Super Bowl contender beyond this year. But This year could just be a bonus by fortune. Put it that way, by fortune.
Do you think their goal for this season should be to earn a home field advantage heading the week before going to Kansas City? Because it looks like Kansas City is going to wrap up home field for the playoffs. Do you think that if Buffalo could be the second seed, or yeah, not even the third seed, but the second seed, that would be a successful season for them?
I think it'd be a ridiculously successful season because they're just not at the level of Kansas City this year. I don't believe. Um, so yeah, I think that would be the goal for sure. The way it's fallen. Like I say, I think any massive success this year for this organization is kind of gravy, and I don't think a lot of people see it that way. I've seen some stuff online like they got to go for it. This is just nah, no, that's not how it's going to work. They're not going to blow assets on this season when they've got too many holes at linebacker, too many holes at safety, those type of things. They're going to plan to plug all those holes like the Chiefs did. The Chiefs, if you want to talk about them, their offense isn't so great, to be honest with you, and it wasn't great last year, but that defense is really good. And when you got a quarterback that can make make it work with less than, you got a real chance. And I think that's what the Bills are going to do. They're not going to blow assets trying to win this year. But they might anyways, because you got
So,
the quarterback.
so this is the third week of our NFL contribution of predictions, and for the first 2 weeks, I'm 3-3. I was 1-2, then 2-1. For the first 2 weeks, you were 2-1, then 0-3. So you're 2-4. I'm 3-3. I'm going to let you go first.
It was a noted tough week for the Sharps. It just was,
Yeah.
I was 0-3, but just industry wide, I'm just saying, Sharps
Well,
had a tough week.
I follow a guy on CBS, Pete Prisco, and he was dominating their group, their panel of experts, and he was like 5-11, he said this week. So you're right. I mean, it wasn't an easy week.
Telling you,
Yeah.
I'm just telling you,
You and Pete.
we all did poorly. So
So who you got? Three games. I'll give you three games.
I do.
What
Okay,
do
the
you got?
first one is going to be, you know what? I'll just start it off. As an unabashed Bills fan, I'm taking the Seahawks +3. I think that's a lot to ask in that stadium. I know they've got some issues themselves, particularly injuries. They're still trying to figure out if Kenneth Walker and DK Metcalf are going to play. But I think going on the road to Seattle, I think it's just a lot to ask for the Bills to cover a 3-point spread. So I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks as my first pick. What about you?
I'm going to take the New England Patriots at home against the Jets. The Patriots straight up have won 11 of the last 13 meetings, although the Jets have won the last two. But 11 of the last 13, you got the controversy surrounding the quarterback, surrounding Aaron Rodgers and his new receiver. And are they still bunking out? Do they share a room on the road? I don't know. But it seems to me that the history and the fact of the new Patriots coach saying that his defense was soft and Bill Belichick then coming in and criticizing the new coach, I think that all that will provide the emotional impetus for the Patriots to at least cover the 7 points.
When your quarterback's using words like sanguine in press conferences, as he did yesterday, I mean, that can't be, it's just never a good sign for team cohesiveness. You know what I mean? So, I mean, just that alone, I think you've made a good pick.
There you go. So your second one
My
is
second one, I'm going to go back to the well. They disappointed me greatly. It's the New York Football Giants. They are in Pittsburgh getting 6 points. Um, I think you see a bounce back after that embarrassing performance against the Eagles. And, I don't think Pittsburgh's blowing anybody out. I think Wilson is not a good quarterback. Obviously, he had some throws he made last week, which are more Hail Mary, I think, than guys getting open. And so I just don't believe Russell Wilson's the right fit for that team. And it worked one week. I think you see soon enough, it's not going to work. So I'm going to trust the Giants to keep this game close. They've got a lot of incentive to bounce back.
good call. I like that one. My second one would be the New Orleans Saints +7 at the Chargers. Now the Chargers, they have a long history of winning or losing by a field goal, whether it's at home or on the road. I watched the Chargers game. It was a prime time, I think, this week sometime. I don't even remember whether it was Thursday, Sunday, or Monday, whatever it was. It might have been Monday. But they don't have any
Yeah, it
receivers.
was.
They don't
Yeah.
have any wide receivers. They don't have a primo tight end. They got a great quarterback, but whatever. But 7 points, and the Saints just signed Alvin Kamara, so they're a little more. They got some impetus there. That's the second time I've used impetus in this podcast. So
You
it's
got
my
to be careful with that word too.
it's my Latin background.
Right.
I got an A+ in high school in Latin, so
Really? Well,
impetus. Yeah.
and
Hopefully
and
the
now you're
carries,
using
carries the Saints to cover the 7 at, and I was about to say San Diego, but at Los Angeles. That's
All
my
right. All right. I like it. My final pick is going to be picking on those AFC East teams. I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals getting 3.5 in Miami. I think, honestly, I'm not so certain Arizona is just not a better team right now. Um, you know, Miami, the it's just not going well. I mean, they just can't do anything right, it seems like these days. So, I mean, to think that they're going to, I mean, you never know, obviously, going to run away with the game. I think Kyler Murray is playing great football, and their defense at least showed up. It's not a great defense, but it certainly played with a lot of passion last week. So I'll take that half point over the 3 and think they can hang in there. Go
another
Cards.
call. Another good call. That Kyler Murray's a force. I wonder if he would have been good for the Sacramento Athletics next year if he had signed a baseball contract.
Right?
Or maybe they
Right?
wouldn't have had to go to Sacramento. Maybe he would have led the A's to a championship in Oakland. Who knows?
And things would be different.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, my third and final game. I'd like Dallas, the Cowboys
Wow.
+4 at San Francisco.
Wow.
I like
Wow.
the fact that
Ballsy.
I remember covering a playoff game in San Francisco where I rented a convertible and it rained for 3 days. And I showed up and I couldn't get my car out of the mud that I parked in. And so screw San Francisco.
That's right.
So
You have
I'm
big
saying
plans for that
it was the
convertible.
game.
Yeah.
I think it was the playoff game where Terrell Owen made a great catch on the last play of the game and won it for the Niners. But it's not going to happen this week. He's not there, and they're not going to win.
Yeah.
Dallas needs this game so badly, and that's all I got.
Hey, I
I
love
have
when you're
no reason.
handicapping.
I have no reason except that CeeDee Lamb might go off in this game. So.
I love when you're handicapping because Terrell Owens won't be in the lineup. That's a good call. I think that's a good synopsis. Good handicap there for sure. For sure.
Anyway, that unless you got something else, that'll bring it to an end. Episode
Oh, that's
41.
great. That's
But we
great.
can whatever we forgot this week, we'll pick up again next
Yeah,
week.
for sure.
And for those who have not gone on griffsthepitch.com, I got 2 years worth of columns and conversations and
Absolutely.
podcasts on there. So feel free to check it out. And Mal, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
And week and
maybe next week we'll have another hitting coach to talk about. You
oh,
never know. You never know.
I'm can guarantee there'll be no because the World Series is starting. They wait to the end of the World Series for a schedule.
Embargo. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can't. You got to keep it under your hat. So yeah.
But thanks, Mal, and thanks everyone for
No
listening.
problem.
And we will talk to you next week.
Thank you. Thank you.